Hi everyone, my name is Vitali Santana Herrera and I am one of the students for the GALEO Institute Leadership Cohort.
Hello, my name is Isabella Badi and I'm a part of the GALEO Institute for Leadership Cohort 2025.
Hola, my name is Evelyn Mimi Woodson and I am a student in GALEO Institute for Leadership 2025. Evelyn.
Y somos GALEO. ¿Y qué es GALEO? What's GALEO?
I'm happy you asked. GALEO is a nonprofit organization, nonpartisan. And what it is an organization that develops leaders for tomorrow. It gets community engagement and helps you to know your rights to vote and to understand what America's about.
But professionally, I'm an attorney, and I started practicing in 2011. So it's really been about close to 14 years now that I've seen kind of the changes that we've seen on the immigration side. Definitely, we've had a lot of changes, but the changes has not been law changes, right? And unfortunately, in the immigration process, there's a lot of discretion. So discretion meaning that the officer, each individual officer that reviews cases and those in charge have had lots of changes in the discretion that they use to review cases, to make opinions on cases that are filed before them. And that all comes from the presidential level. So the executive kind of sets the tone, right? Sets the tone about how these agencies or departments should manage themselves. And of course, we've seen that's been in a very negative way towards the Latino community and immigrant community generally, not just in Georgia, but obviously throughout our state.
I want to discuss with you what a family plan is. It's a document that you put together. It's a document where you put important phone numbers, information, bank accounts, attorney numbers, power of attorney, guardianship. Why is it important to have a family plan? It's important because if for some situation you are deported or an incident happened, your family knows exactly what to do in your absence.
The best thing that we can do under these circumstances and with this administration is to try to be prepared for the worst case scenario, depending on what that worst case scenario is for individuals, but particularly as it relates to immigration encounters, right? And that starts with personal or family preparation.
It's very important for you to have these discussions with your family. It is your children that it's okay to have a family plan.
In all your civil documents, your marriage certificates, your birth certificates, your passports, even if it's of your home country, that make sure that they're current and that they're valid, and they're valid for more than 1 year. And those documents also should include things like everything that basically you would need, like your accounts to your banks, right? Your utility bills. You need to have all of those things in one safe place with one individual that can have access to them if you are not able to have access to them.
For more information, we will provide a link for you in the bottom, and you can also go to galeo.org and you can get additional information and resources. Remember, a family plan is important because it's the future of your family and their well-being.
If you haven't already, or you haven't recently, and by recently I mean probably in the last 5 years, if you haven't done at least a consultation with an immigration attorney, one of confidence, right? And I know that on their website has a list of more trusted lawyers that have worked with the organization that you could search. That's not obviously the only lawyers, but that's a start. I say have that one consult because sometimes we don't do it because we think we're not eligible for something, but we're not actually certain about it. Sometimes maybe in the past, we might have been told we weren't eligible, but maybe there's been changes. That's what I mean, if it hasn't been within the last 5 years. And sometimes, and I hear this frequently, right? Like expense, right? Like, oh, I can't afford it. But that's what I said, at least a consultation. Consultations are usually some lower amount of fee. if you're able to go to an organization that provides the same consultation or the same legal services, Galileo, I believe also on our website that there's a resource page for nonprofit organizations that provide pro bono, which means free, or low bono, which is kind of more reduced cost, organizations that do that. That uncertainty doesn't allow us to prepare for again a worst kind of scenario. So I would definitely encourage that, a consultation at a very minimum.
So where can I find more information about knowing my rights? I'm not sure if y'all have seen these cards going around in communities, but this is a red card. This card is both in Spanish and in English. This QR code here takes you to other languages in which you can access this resource. Once you scan the QR code, it does have information as far as attorneys, resources in case ICE, police, or any law enforcement stops you. By using this red card, you can stay safe and protected and know your rights.
To advocate, to continue advocating, right? I think is that we start getting discouraged and we feel like there's just a lot of bad things happening and all of these problems happening and potentially rights being withdrawn and services and benefits that we had before being withdrawn too. And so we still have to continue this work of expressing what we want to see in this country. You know, we can still care about our neighbor, right? We can still care about our neighbor. And so I ask again, like sort of those individuals to continue doing the advocacy work, to continue volunteering of your time, and to be informed, right? Self-informed about how it is that we as individuals can try to, even if it is helping one person, right? That's more than enough. One thing, and I would say this is true for any law enforcement contact, whether that's a police officer or otherwise, is to remain silent, right? That's first and foremost. You have no reason to self-identify or answer any questions, because obviously not doing it in any way that shows resistance or aggression. So to go ahead and record instances that will always be helpful for many, but particularly if it's about someone arriving at your home, wherever it is that you live. It is very important, again, to not open the door. I suggest with people that if there's people that they don't know, to ask who it is, to identify themselves. And if it's not someone that they would normally, not engage in opening the door. If they're asking for somebody, you don't have to answer about the person is. You can just say, that's not me, and that's it. But definitely not opening doors. Is that if they say that they're there to arrest someone, one of the most important things that can be asked for is if they have a judicial arrest warrant. So particularly with immigration officers have something sometimes they call, which is an administrative arrest warrant. Well, that has no legal weight to arrest someone unless the person makes themselves available, right? Which is the part about not opening the door. And so a judicial warrant, on the other hand, is a warrant that's signed by a federal judge. But generally, you want to look for warrants that say that it comes from a federal district judge. That's why it's important to do the two things. One, have a trusted person that you can call and say, hey, this is happening. Preferably, obviously, that's not in the home, to notify them, right, of the instance this is happening. And the other thing is, if you have done a consult or you have an immigration attorney, to be able to make sure and rely that information to them. Like, the most important thing is not to say anything. And so if you have one of these cards, then you just share that and say that you choose not to speak any further, or that if they have questions, they should ask their lawyer, and that the only thing that they're going to provide is that red card, and that any other questions they might have, they need to speak to your attorney. And this is not direct action, right? But this is why also part of both what the GALEO work does and, personally, some of the volunteer work that I do is the electoral side. So who is elected, does matter. That is why we are in the circumstances that we are currently. And so for those of us, that do have the privilege to be able to vote, I have to ask people to make sure that they vote, and not only vote during presidential elections, but for example, city council, whether it's your county commissioners, whether it's your school board, right? There's always elections. And we have to kind of self-inform, right, about who is running, especially at the local level, because we're always going to see on television about the top ticket, which is usually your governors or your presidential elections. But we also need to figure out who our local folks are, and not just to vote for them during election, but to reach out to them once they get elected.
As part of our leadership program, we engage with at-risk communities, helping them find information and whatever assistance that they need without fear. It seems that nowadays there is always a new challenge. There's a new bill being signed, there's a new court case being heard, there's a new executive order, always a new headline. But no matter your legal status, if you're a DACA member, if you are a legal resident, if you are an undocumented immigrant, you have legal protections. And if you need more information about what those rights are and how to find access to them, feel free to tap the link or scan the QR code or check out any of the red cards being passed around in your community. Remember, no matter what happens, we are all Americans.
No importa qué pase, enseña tu bandera con orgullo.
Y recuérdate que en América los sueños